I was signing y'all, your boy Rico from Street Scores. You know that the Commanders are due to play the Browns this upcoming Sunday at 1 p.m. Of course, I will be live streaming for that and everything, doing all of my live play-by-play analysis. But Rivera talked to the media today virtually. He gave a lot of really important updates. First of all, the starting quarterback position has not been decided yet, and he explains exactly why. And he also said that the players will have a say in it, so we have somewhat of a timeline of when that will be announced. But of course, strategically, it would be more convenient for Rivera to not announce that type of thing until as late as possible. Maybe they actually already do have a quarterback already chosen, but they just don't want the public to know, because again, that would only increase the Browns' chances of developing a game plan to stop said quarterback. Also, Chase Young is expected to get more playing time. Rivera spoke on that and why. Cameron Crowe also seems very healthy and should be able to play against the Browns. That's the great news. But also Antonio Gibson looks like he's a little banged up, and they're going to watch him closely. We got to talk about that and more. But before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up every game day, whether it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Thursday, whenever the Commanders play, I'm live streaming, live play-by-play analysis and all of that, man. Make sure you pull up for this upcoming Browns game. Make sure you pull up for the Cowboys game after that. And of course, make sure you pull up for when we make the playoffs, and I live stream during those as well, because I'm speaking it into existence. Without further ado, let's get it. All right, so first of all, Ron Rivera will not name a starting quarterback just yet. After the 49ers lost, like the press conference immediately after the game, he said that he would name it in the beginning of the week, and maybe he's sticking to that. Maybe for the team, he's already named who the starter is, because he said in that press conference that he wants the starting quarterback to get as many starting reps as possible so that they can prepare for the Browns. They can game plan. Scott Turner can develop an offense, scheme something up. To what extent, I don't know, because Scott Turner is very inconsistent. But either way, the quicker that the team knows who the starting quarterback is, the better chance that we have against the Browns. But at the same time, us as fans and the public and the Browns knowing who the starting quarterback is, the later the better. So maybe Ron Rivera is just straight up lying to the camera saying they haven't actually named the starting quarterback yet, and the team already knows, and that guy's already getting starting level reps with the offense and everything in practices already. We'll see though. But I think that's really interesting, because he said that he does want to speak with everyone before making the decision, including the players. He's talking about the coaching staff, the players, everybody. He wants to get a feel for who the team feels like should be the starter. And that's really interesting, because if he's actually telling the truth there, and he actually for real means that, that's going to say a lot about who starts at quarterback this upcoming game against the Browns. You're going to be able to look and be like, oh, okay, so the team is behind this guy more than that other guy a little bit. I mean, of course, the players don't have all of the say-so. It's probably like the exact blend of Pro Bowl votes, like the fans and the players get 1/3 of the vote combined, and then coaches and staff and all of that maybe get the other 2/3. Who knows? And at the end of the day, it's Rivera's call. But that's a really interesting concept, to think that Ron Rivera may leave it to the players to at least have a big say-so. They may not have the final vote, but the fact that they can impact the decision is really interesting. And I want to know, I'm pretty sure it would never leak, but I would want to know who Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson and Curtis Samuel voted. I don't care who the entire team voted, the defense and everything. I mean, I would want to know, but my priority, if I could just pick 3 players to hear from and who they voted for in private, I would love to hear Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and Jahan Dotson's explanation. Rivera said exactly, quote, "Nope. We've got meetings today. We're going to finish up, and then we'll talk to the players tomorrow, and then we'll go from there," unquote. So it sounds like, according to him, a starting quarterback will not be picked until Wednesday at the earliest. But again, I'm pretty sure they already have in mind who's going to be the guy who's getting the starting level snaps and stuff like that, because there's no reason to wait till Wednesday at the earliest, maybe even Thursday, to officially decide who your starting quarterback is. I'm pretty sure they're just waiting to announce. But I'm assuming the decision has already been made, and even if they included the players, I'm pretty sure that's already been done. And then Rivera also spoke on Carson Wentz. He said that Wentz showed that he's fully healthy and has fresh legs and a live arm. He said that he handled blitzes really well. Quote, "That was something early on he wasn't quick with," unquote. So Rivera is basically seeing that Wentz is better especially against the blitz and dealing with pressure right now, at least from that one drive that he had against the 49ers compared to how he was in previous games. So Carson Wentz, one thing you could say, maybe he's improved. And Taylor Heinecke, in my opinion, actually played some of his best quarters this season against the 49ers. But when you go out there and throw interceptions, you could just tell he was on the hot seat. Rivera was just ready to bench him for any small reason. Because again, even with this not great, I would say, Taylor Heinecke played, honestly, that second quarter was probably his best isolated quarter in the entire season. And so the fact that he got benched during that game rather than getting benched in other games where he was just completely terrible, even games we won where we were winning in spite of him, just shows that Rivera was ready to move on to Carson Wentz anyway. So if I had to predict who's the starting quarterback going forward, first of all, when somebody gets benched and you put the next guy in there, I think that's very weird to go back to the guy that got benched, especially when he's not like a franchise quarterback, a guy that you drafted and you're trying to build on and trying to develop and turn into that franchise quarterback, all of that type of stuff. So I'm pretty sure Carson Wentz is going to be the starter anyway because of that. But also, you could just tell by the fact that Ron Rivera benched Taylor Heinecke when he did. I mean, granted, he did have that really ugly interception. He made a couple of bad plays, but honestly, up to the point that he got benched, I wouldn't say that that was Taylor Heinecke's worst game at all. There were some games that we won this season where Taylor Heinecke was easily worse than how he was against the 49ers. The 49ers were just a better team and were able to expose it more and were able to take advantage of our defense. But honestly, Taylor Heinecke wise, if we would have ranked Taylor Heineke's games from good to bad this season, that game against the 49ers was not even in the bottom half, honestly. So Rivera just clearly wanted to move on to Carson Wentz and just needed a reason. I'm pretty sure when Taylor Heinecke threw that interception, he smiled inside a little bit. Like, yes, now I have an excuse, but you know, that's neither here nor there. Moving on, great news. Rivera said that Chase Young did some good things on tape versus the 49ers. Pro Football Focus agrees. They gave him the highest grade by far of any player on our team from that game. Rivera said that he exceeded their snap count because of how good Chase responded during the game, and Rivera expects him to play on earlier downs going forward. So basically, Chase Young is going to get more playing time than he just got, which I'm really excited about, man. I mean, they were saying he would play maybe like 15 snaps. He played like 20-something, 30-something. Rivera also said that he should probably see more multi-snap stints on the field. So instead of playing like a play, maybe 2 plays in a row, then coming out, maybe he'll actually get like a good portion of a drive. Like, based on how Chase Young looked, I mean, not only just health-wise, but looking like arguably our best defensive player on the field, especially with Cameron Curl hurt, I think he's earned more snaps. And, you know, a lot of people were giving up on him. I wasn't. I mean, a lot of people were asking what we could trade him for. I was like, bro, just have faith in the guy, man. He's an athletic freak, bro. Just wait on it. I had a good feeling that he would come back and be great. And he even exceeded my expectations a little bit. Now, granted, he didn't get a sack, but to go against arguably the best left tackle in football, your first game back in over a year, that's phenomenal. Trent Williams is the best tackle we've gone against all season. And the fact that Chase Young looked like our best defensive player against him, I'm excited about what he's going to look like against the Browns and the Cowboys. Now, granted, the Browns and Cowboys don't have slouch O-lines. Their O-lines aren't as bad as some of the O-lines we face throughout the course of this season, but I don't think any of those guys are as good as Trent Williams. And if Chase Young can do what he did against Trent Williams, especially against the run, I'm really excited about what he's going to do for these last couple of games and getting into the playoffs. Because let us get that rematch against the Vikings again in the playoffs. Let that happen, please. Chase Young going to get that loss back in blood. Now, I'm not sure by then if Taylor Heineke's your starting quarterback like he was, because I felt like that game also wasn't one of his terrible games, but then he literally gave the game away with that one interception at the end, which was just absolutely terrible. He literally sold that game. Now, granted, if the Benjamin St. Juste pick 6 counts, and they don't call that pass interference, which is kind of like, you know, 50-50. I can see why they called it, but I could also see a scenario where they don't. And of course, us as Commanders, us as the Redskins, the Washington football team, the Commanders, we never get the benefit of the doubt. So I'm not surprised by that. But we should have won that game regardless, especially if Taylor Heinecke didn't throw that unnecessary interception. So I'm expecting Carson Wentz, especially if we make the playoffs, to be our starting quarterback moving forward. And I'm interested in seeing Carson Wentz and Chase Young, what they look like against the Vikings, because it's a completely different team. It's a new starting quarterback, and arguably the best defensive player on the team, at least the most talented, is now on the field. I would love to run that back with the Vikings. We should have beat them the first time. We didn't have Cole Holcomb then. We don't have Cole Holcomb now. It's not much of a difference other than potentially an upgraded quarterback, especially if Carson Wentz can play better against pressure. Like I've been saying this entire time. I mean, I've been go ahead and throw Sam Howell out there, mostly for draft reasons and future reasons. But this season wise, I said that Carson Wentz in a clean pocket is better than Taylor Heinecke. The reason you start Taylor Heinecke is because the offensive line has been just so bad, and Carson Wentz has not been good with dealing with that. But if Carson Wentz looks like how he looked in that one drive against the 49ers and can handle the blitz, can handle pressure like that, he is the better quarterback. Because Taylor Heinecke, I love the fact that he can use his legs, but for some reason we just don't. I don't know if Scott Turner's telling him to stay in the pocket for some odd reason, to not use his legs as much. We rarely do QB design runs with him. We don't run as much read options as I think we should. So a lot of his advantages, we're not even utilizing it. And I'm going to put that on Scott Turner, honestly. But we'll see. Either way, I think it would be really interesting to see that rematch with the Vikings with Chase Young and Carson Wentz now. Or even just Taylor Heinecke do what he did last time, but not throw a game-losing interception. Either way, I'm happy. Also, good news, Ron Rivera spoke on safety Cameron Curl. He said that he has a good shot to play Sunday versus Cleveland. Curl said post-game last Saturday that he was close to playing then. Rivera called Cameron Curl, quote, a little bit of an air traffic controller, unquote, and that he gets people into the right spot. That's a great term for a player as smart and as rangy as Curl, and that's why we missed him. As you've noticed, against the 49ers, that was the most points we gave up since the Detroit Lions week 2, right? And that was the last game we played without Cameron Curl. I don't think it's any coincidence that Cameron Curl is out. Our defense is obviously not as good as they should be. But Rivera said he thinks that Cameron Curl has a good shot to play against the Browns. Quote, he was close, unquote, to playing against the 49ers, but the safety couldn't just stick it and go. So that's really optimistic, great news. We have Benjamin St-Juste back, and he was a little banged up against the 49ers, but he toughed it out and started to play a little bit better as the day went on, even though he did give up that one big play, like the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, something like that, around there. But he wasn't 100%. Hopefully he's 100% going into this next game, and Cameron Curl having him back on the field is huge. And then a little bit of bad news. Rivera said that Antonio Gibson is dealing with a sprain. He wouldn't reveal the exact body part, but it sounds concerning, and that injury is why Jonathan Williams had more snaps last week against the 49ers. Antonio Gibson got hurt during the game, so Jonathan Williams got a little bit more snaps, and I'm expecting Jonathan Williams to get more snaps against the Browns, even if Antonio Gibson plays, but we'll see if he even plays. He may be out versus the Browns. Now, I'm assuming that this sprain is probably in his foot because he's been dealing with a foot injury all season, basically, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's where it is. But then again, the location doesn't exactly matter that much to us fans, but I just really hope he's healthy to go. And I mean, I would love for him to play against the Browns, but if you got to save him for the Cowboys, do that. I guess we're just going back to fair catches on kickoffs as well, just like punts. Also, Rivera said something really interesting in the press conference as well. As far as the offensive line goes, he said, quote, I'm not as worried about it as some people are making it out to be, unquote. And I disagree wholeheartedly, man. I mean, if you had to say the reason that we're 7-7-1 instead of say like 9-5-1 or 10-5 or something like that, I would say offensive line, easily top 3. Quarterback play, easily top 3. And you can also throw Scott Turner in there. Now, Scott Turner hasn't been consistent. I think he's a great play designer, but not a good play caller. But guys are open a lot of the time, and the quarterback just doesn't see him, doesn't get them the ball or whatever, if you really look at the film. So I would say Scott Turner is a good third as far as who to blame the most for this season. And as to why we're 7-7-1 right now, struggling to make it into the playoffs with a very easy schedule. But I would say it's a debate between offensive line and quarterback play for number 1 and 2. Which one you want to put above the other. It just depends on the game, honestly. So I thought that was really interesting from Rivera because, okay, if you say that the offensive line isn't that bad, then who is? Is it obviously coaching at that point? I think coaching is a lot to blame for this as well. If you want to throw them in the top 3, if you want to throw them in the top 4, top 5, whatever, not even just Scott Turner, but Rivera's game management, time management, and even just personnel decisions to not go get more linebackers in free agency with all of the injuries that we've had, having to keep John Bostic and David Mayo out there so much, or not getting more offensive linemen with this bad as poorly as they've played. But apparently Rivera feels like they haven't. So if you feel like the offensive line is not at fault, so does that put more blame onto you as the coach? I mean, it's got to be somebody. It's got to be somebody. And I feel like quarterback play has been a lot of it, arguably the majority of it, and Scott Turner as well. But I feel like injuries have played a big part too. But I mean, if it's not offensive line, we're looking at you, Rivera. And even if offensive line is a big blame for it, I'm still looking at you at least a little bit. But if you said it's not offensive line, that's got to fall in your lap then. But I just thought it was interesting that he said that it's not as bad as people are making it out to be. So he's hearing outside noise, which is also a really interesting part of that. And then lastly, before we go, remember Charles Leno is trying to win Walter Payton Man of the Year. Last week he was in 3rd place. Now he's in 2nd place, only behind Pat Mahomes, who's in 1st. So, hey man, we gotta vote him up, man. Make sure y'all vote that man up. Matter of fact, I'm gonna retweet this right now while I'm looking at it. Make sure y'all go retweet that and vote for him, man. Let's get Charles Leno in there, man. I mean, I know he was getting beat like a drum by Nick Bosa, but first of all, who doesn't? He leads the NFL in sacks. But man, let's get him the Walter Payton Man of the Year, man. Let's do that right there, man. Let's at least do that for him. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Of course, I appreciate all of the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Let me know how you feel about the whole Chase Young quarterback, Cameron Curl, Antonio Gibson offensive line situations that we spoke on today. And I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.